As I say, in road traffic accidents, what I've observed in many cases is people who have been deceased is the fact that they were not wearing seat belts. And it's a common notion among the general layman public is that saying that if I'm traveling in my car at the speed of 50 to 60 kilometers, that I wouldn't die even if I had a collision with an oncoming vehicle or when a vehicle collides with an object like a tree or a wall. But this is totally not true. What we have come across in forensic pathology is if any person who's not wearing a seat belt collides with another upcoming vehicle or rolls over and hits a tree or a wall, even if he or she is traveling at 50 kilometers, that is sufficient to cause fatal injuries and they would die. So this is very unfortunate that we come across lots of road traffic accidents where people could have survived if they were wearing seat belts. We had an interesting case where the police had recovered some human remains in the woods, and these remains were then examined by me. We couldn't find, unfortunately, any identification marks on these human remains because the remains was totally skeletonized. So there was no soft tissue or any other facial tissues on the skeleton to identify who this person was. So my job initially was to first collect all these bones and then bring them over to the Forensic Science Center. After bringing the bones to the Forensic Science Center, then I was able to determine whether these bones belong to one individual or more than one individual. And then there were unfortunately some commingled remains in the form of animal bones along with the skeletons. So I had to, segregate the animal bones from the human bones and then place them anatomically. And that is when I was able to determine whether this bones belonged to a male or a female. So I was able to say that for sure by looking at some of these bones, like the pelvic bone would normally tell the sex of the skeleton. So I was able to determine that this belonged to a male, and also I was able to determine the age based on the sutures. We have a lot of sutures on the skull bone. So sutures close at certain points of time. As the person grows older, the sutures begin to close. So based on this closure of the sutures, I was then able to establish the approximate age range of this man. So how old was he here? Like he was somewhere between 40 to 50 year old of an Afro-Caribbean descent. Then looking at the length of the bones, I was then able to tell he was more than 6 feet old or 6 feet tall. And how long has he been dead? So looking at the condition of the bones, I was able to say that he was lying there for more than a year, because his bones had become totally dried out and there was no soft tissue sticking to the bones.